Right speech isn't about saying nice things. And this is where Buddhism's idea of right speech has been badly misunderstood. Sometimes right speech means stating uncomfortable truths. I helped to lead a workshop on political anger, and there were about 20 community leaders in the room, and a clear divide emerged. Most of the men argued that anger was wrong, something that shouldn't be expressed, often using religious or moral language to back that claim up. The women were mostly silent at this point, but you could feel the tension. And when we opened it up, something striking became clear. Many of the women had experienced ideas like right speech, not as wisdom, but as a way of being silenced. Being calm, being reasonable, not making a fuss is used to weaponize the refusal to deal with real issues. That moment stayed with me because when good speech is suppressing truth and anger, it stops being ethical. It becomes censorship. Navayana Buddhism takes this really seriously. It understands speech as power. The stories we tell shape the relationships we build, and those relationships shape the world we live in. Right speech isn't just about behaving well inside the world as it is. It's about imagining and speaking a better world into being. That's why the Eightfold Path isn't a moral law to obey, but a set of skills to develop. Right, or better, skilled speech means speaking truth to power despite the cost. It means challenging bullies and bosses when they use their authority to grasp even more power. And it means using whatever privilege we have to create space for voices which don't land as easily. I learned what this looks like in practice when I was a priest sitting in a meeting of over 100 clergy. The bishop was speaking about a vacancy for a very senior position in the church, in the cathedral, and using language that implied that the job could only be done by a man. I asked to speak, not to embarrass him, he was a great bishop and I respected him, but simply to ask whether the post was open only to men or whether women could apply too. He paused, apologized, and then publicly corrected himself. So I left that space open, right? Not to shame him, but to give him an opportunity to speak differently. Afterwards, several women came up to me and said they were glad someone spoke and that they felt they couldn't have done so and been taken seriously in that space. They would have been accused, they said, of overreacting, whereas I wouldn't. So that wasn't about being polite or confrontational. It was about speaking, I hope, skillfully and naming the problem and creating an opening and changing the situation without reproducing the domination. For Dalits, those who are called untouchable or outcast in India, this really matters. They have been told for generations that even to speak or hear scriptures read should lead to their punishment. Navayana Buddhism comes from lives shaped by silencing, by exclusion, and by violence. So the idea that right speech just means making people feel peaceful or comfortable just makes no sense. Sometimes right speech isn't meant to soothe, it's meant to challenge. And sometimes breaking silence is the most ethical act there is. This video is the first in a series on those practical steps of the Eightfold Path of Buddhism. And we've started with right speech, but one of the places where that makes an impact is work. So our next video will be right livelihood. What does right livelihood really mean in the world today?